Norman Parental Control is by default not installed by the Norman Security Suite installer. So if you want to use the parental control feature, we first need to install it. And the easiest way to do this is by clicking the Click here to install from the main window. This launches the install and update, so I confirm the installation by clicking Install. Now we can see that the parental control is currently installing, and I recommend that we download the latest updates from the internet when doing this. So while this is installing, I'll click the Update All Products button. This launches the Internet Update Wizard, which will download any necessary installation files from the internet. Now we see the parental control is finished installing, so the status changed from installing to installed. Let us go back to the home menu. We see the status of the parental control has changed, so it's no longer grayed out, but it's possible to access the parental control. But it's still yellow because we haven't created an administrator for the parental control yet. So we'll start by doing this. So we'll click the Administrator Not Created button. The first thing we need to do when setting up parental control is to create a password for the administrator accounts. So I'll type the password here and confirm it. Now we need to select the default fallback profile for the parental control. This is the profile which will be used if nobody logs into the parental control. We can choose from two default profiles: a child user where all web pages are blocked except those you enter manually, or the teenage user where web pages with certain content are blocked, for example sex, gambling, weapons and drugs. We'll select the child user as a default profile for this demonstration. So I'll select child and hit save. To set up Norman Parental Control, we need to log in with a newly created administrator account. So we'll start by typing the administrator password we just created, and then click Login. Within the parental control configuration, we have easy access to an overview of scanned pages for the last 24 hours. But of course, we don't have any historical data in our fresh installation. From the Settings menu, we can set the idle time before changing to default profile. We can set the default fallback profile type and change the administrator password. From user configuration, you can create, view and modify user settings. And the parental control log viewer shows you the parental control logs for the last week. Let us have a look at the user configuration. From the user configuration, we can configure the default teenager profile, the default child profile, and create or modify existing users. We selected child as our default profile, so to make changes to this, we click the Default Child Profile button. Child users are only allowed access to websites explicitly allowed by the administrator. So by entering a set of web pages in this allowed list, child users will be allowed access to these web pages. If I enter www.disney.no for Norway and click Add, all child users are allowed access to www.disney.no. Click User Configuration to return to the previous menu. Let us have a look at the default teenager profile as well. Users in the teenager group are default allowed access to all sites on the internet, but from the Manage categories we can block sites based on site content. We can also allow or block access to specific sites by adding them to the Allow or Block list. Default, all members of the teenager group will not be allowed access to websites with adult content in the following categories: sex, gambling, weapons, and drugs. If you wish to unblock one or more of these categories for users in the teenage group, you can deselect the category here. Let's click User Configuration to go back a step. Now that the default users are configured, we can click Create User to add individual users. To create a user, we need to give the user a username, password, and select the user's default profile. As you might remember, child users are only allowed access to sites on the Allow list. Teenagers are default allowed access to all sites except those blocked by category. We haven't talked about adult users earlier, but these users are not blocked access to any web pages by the parental control. I'll create two users, one child account and one teenager account. After a user is created, we configure the user by clicking the username. For individual users, we have the same options as for default users. So for the child user, we do have the allow list. In addition, we can change the user's password, or we can schedule internet access. From the scheduler, you can schedule internet access for the individual days and hours of the week. Use your mouse to set the schedule. And click Save to save your changes. We can go back to user configuration by clicking User Configuration either in the menu or on the top of the page. If I go to my teenager user, you'll see I do have the Change Password option. I can select the categories for this user. I can add things to the block or allow list. And I can schedule internet access. Let us go back to the main parental control window by clicking Parental Control either in the menu or on the top. The Parental Control Log Viewer shows you the logs for the past 7 days. This log contains information about blocked websites. You'll see date, time, user, reason for block, and the URL blocked. The log will only contain information for the past 7 days. When a website is blocked, the user will receive information about the block in the web browser. You can always log in, log out, or change parental control user by right-clicking the parental control tray icon and click Login. This will bring up the same dialog as from the Login to Parental Control in this page. Select your username in the drop-down box, enter your password, and click Login. If you want to log out the current user, you can do this by right-clicking the parental control icon, select Log Out. Now it's back in the default profile.